So I know a lot of what you have expressed interest in from day one is helping people get involved in real estate. I mean, why? What motivated you to take a look at this industry? Because you're doing it from a different angle, right? Most people get involved in the real estate industry. They're looking to invest in properties or they're real estate agents and maybe they're helping other people buy their first time home and then they jump right into investing themselves. But it sounds like when I listen to you, you immediately took aim at the financial side of it and working with people to help get their affairs in order. What made you gravitate towards that?
Um, just from growing up, in the inner city and not knowing anything about this and messing my credit up, in college, because I was doing what everybody told me to do. And
Talk to me. You say everybody told you. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, like your parents, growing up, your the people in us around, you're like, if you want to be successful in life, you need to do X, Y, and Z, go to school, do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And like college is where I messed my credit up, so
Mm.
I read a book in college, my mom gave to me, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it talked about real estate. And I mean, I knew nothing about real estate. And, once I got out of college, couldn't find a job, wanted to become a financial advisor, but I found out that your credit had to be at a certain level in order for you to become a financial advisor. And my credit wasn't there. And eventually got into the construction and started rehabbing houses and just continuously learning. And I just wanted, and then there was certain things that I learned along the way that, kind of like helped me see like, man, there's a big need for people that like how I was, because there were just things that I didn't know. So I just want to educate the person that I used to be on, just pretty much paint the picture of like where you could be if you just, got your credit and things in order. And, now that I know a little bit more about the credit thing than I did back then, I want to pretty much like help people, first off, if they could just sidestep the whole messing their credit up in the beginning and just jump right into real estate, that would be beautiful. But if they were just like me and they had already messed their credit up because they didn't know, now I want to have an avenue for them to come in, and it's kind of like a one-stop shop, and you can use the service that we offer, and then also the people that I have access to, my network as well, to help you get to like that next point to where you can become like that good man and leave an inheritance for your children's children with real estate and land.
Mhm. I like it. So this is very personal for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we spoke a number of months ago, you shared a strategy that kind of intrigued me, right? Because as you're well aware of, um, especially when you're new to the real estate game and you're learning about the importance of your personal credit, you're learning about the importance of establishing a solid business credit profile, right? And you're bumping your head, you're going through these bruises. Sometimes, while you may not have all your affairs together, that does not mean you're locked out the industry. All right. So there's a lot of creative ways to secure financing so you can go out and invest, whether it be on a residential or commercial side. And I'll tell you, the strategy you showed me, like, really, like, I understood it practically, but I had never heard anyone really articulate it before. And talk to people a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the tools? What are some of the strategies, in particular that strategy, and how does it work? Right? Who could benefit from it?
Which strategy? Because I mean, there's quite a few strategies. Which strategy are you talking about in particular?
Well, look, if you have, man, I'm here to get it all. So if you have three, four, I'm here for it all. But the strategy that caught my attention was the idea of how people can utilize businesses as a
Oh,
ladder,
business credit. You talking about the business credit?
where if you have somebody, I think the way you explained it to me was maybe you have the experience, the talent, the skill,
Oh, okay.
but your
I
personal
see.
credit isn't the best, but you can work with somebody that has a
I
good
see. I see.
profile and set up a business, and that really caught my attention.
Yeah. Because like there's two types of people in the world. You have people that have a bunch of time and no money, and you have
Hmm.
people who have a bunch of money and no time.
Yeah.
And if that person who has a bunch of time and no money, if they have
Hmm.
ideas, to a person who has no time, they would be willing to finance those ideas. And then by those two people coming together, they both get something that didn't have before, because the person who didn't have any money, by them having the person who has the money finance their ideas, now they're going to get the money. And the person
Hmm.
that had the money and no time, now they're going to have more time because they don't have to spend as much time trading it for money. So
Hmm.
with the business funding thing, um, if a person understands how to invest in real estate, they can partner up with but their credit is in order. They can actually partner up with someone who has the credit in order, and they can, form, a company. And this is just more so on the paper, because when you form an LLC, you have to have the articles of corporation, all of that stuff. But when you go to the bank to get financing, they're looking for something called the operating agreement.
Yep.
On this operating agreement, you can put that the person that has even though they may not be on the articles of incorporation with the state, they can, when you go get the financing with the bank, they can be like a 90%, owner of this particular uh, entity on paper, and the person who's actually the business is, they can be a 10% owner, because if a person owns less than 15% of the business, the bank doesn't need to run that person's credit. So that's how they can pretty much get into real estate or whatever with having less than perfect credit. And
So,
then they can get their credit together once they start making money.
so a couple things here, right? And I want to clarify. So I just want to make sure I understand it properly. So let's say I'm the one with the damaged credit, but I have the ideals, I have the sweat equity, I have the energy, the willingness to go out there and do the work. But because my credit is damaged, it's hard for me to seek traditional financing, right? But if I know someone that maybe has an active interest in investing in the marketplace, investing in real estate, but they don't have the time, they don't have the bandwidth to do what I was doing earlier today, which is phone calling, talking to people, chatting with real estate agents, getting access to listings, et cetera, et cetera, right? I could partner with them, set up an operating agreement. And if I heard you correctly, I just want to make sure I'm repeating this, because I would only have a ownership interest of 15% in the business. The bank isn't going to ask me for personal guarantees. They're not going to run my credit. It's all going to be predicated upon that other person.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, okay, cool. You better have somebody working with that you trust, though, right? Because
That's
you only have 15%.
right, right, right. Yeah.
And that person can, with their 85%, they can make things real problematic for you.
Yeah, yeah, it could be. It could. Yeah, that's why that trust is definitely a major factor there. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it works because, excuse me, it works because if your credit's damaged, that means you probably don't have a lot of skin in the game in the first place, right? It's not like, if you're walking around with that handicap, it's not like you're gonna quickly be able to get your hands on it in 10 or 15 or $20,000, unless you're willing to get it off the dirt, which is cool too, right? Go
Right.
out there and actually earn it. Okay, I like it. Now, man, we talked so much that day. Like I was trying to get it all from you, right? But that one stuck with me. Um, but you mentioned there's some other strategies that you'd like to share with individuals who are dealing with a similar situation, right? where they have the desire, they have the work ethic, hopefully the values, principles, integrity, right? So they're trustworthy. And we can talk about that actually. Because I know from your side of the table, you don't want everyone to take advantage of all these strategies, particularly if they out here running amok and taking advantage of people. So I don't even know whether or not to start with that first, but I am also eager to kind of listen to some of these other ideals that you shared with me about how people with challenge credit can participate.
Okay. Well, there's I'll share with you one strategy. Well, there's actually two strategies I'll share with you. Um, I'm pretty sure most of the viewers have driven along the side, the road, and they've seen "I buy houses" signs.
Yep.
Those "I buy houses" signs, those signs are placed by people called wholesalers. So
Hmm.
now these wholesalers, what they're looking for is they're looking for these people called motivated sellers. Now, what a motivated seller is a person that they don't want to sell their home. They need to sell their home. So,
Hmm.
and with these people, typically when a person is desperate, you know, they'll exchange these properties for pennies on a dollar, because they just don't want them. A person can become a motivated seller for many reasons. It could be, like a divorce. It could be a property that they inherited. They may have taken over or been willed the property here in Michigan, but they live out of state and they just want to get rid of it quickly, or um, a situation that I used to one of the situations that I dealt with, there was a landlord who owned 26 properties, but just like some people live paycheck to paycheck, there are landlords who live rent to rent. So
Hmm.
um every year she would we about to lose all her properties, and she had to sell a couple of them just so she could pay the taxes on the other houses, that the other 20 houses or however many she had left. So but a person would just look and say, if a person has 26 houses, they're doing pretty good. So that's why it's like, you can't always look at like how things look on the outside. Sometimes you never know what's going on behind the scenes. But that was another thing. A person may be losing a property because of taxes, code violations, things of that nature. So what you do is you put those signs out, and those motivated sellers are going to call, and then you
Yeah.
negotiate with them. You get the contract. What I used to do is I used to get the set up a price to buy the property from them, and I would just, you know, rehab the property. Or some people, once they get that contract, they'll market that contract to someone who's actually going to rehab the property for like $5,000, $10,000 or whatever, and they'll step out of the deal.
Yeah.
Those are with houses that typically need work. There's another strategy for properties that don't need work, and it's similar, because most people when they
So let's slow down just a little bit. Also, let me make a suggestion, right? Because your camera's shaking when
oh,
you
okay,
lean in on the table. So I
okay,
would
okay.
say,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, I'm doing the
Okay.
same thing. Every time I tap the table, it starts shaking. So I just let me just sit
Okay.
back.
Right.
But I want to make sure people understand this. So, because this is how I got involved in the industry a handful of years ago. Coming out of my divorce, I needed to earn some money quick, and I learned about this concept, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Right? And I know it can be a bit intimidating for people because you're talking about contracts, right? But what I want people to understand is that what you're doing is, on paper, you are acquiring an ownership interest in somebody's home, right? So when we say contract, that's what you're doing. You're putting on contract, and now you have an ownership interest. And of course, you and I both know you got to be careful
Oh
with
yeah.
this,
Oh yeah.
because there are some clauses that you need to put in these documents to make sure that you're not put in a bad situation where you've acquired an ownership interest in a home and a contract's written in a certain way where you have to execute and take on that ownership, right?
And or signs. Put that,
Yes.
have that in there, and or signs. So you not
Yes.
necessarily the person that have to. Yeah.
Yeah. But then what you're doing is you're acquiring the ownership interests on paper, and you're looking for someone that has an interest in buying that interest off you, right? Buying your ownership of that property off you. And so that's what we're talking about when talking about buying a contract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And you could, man, we can give a master class on, I don't know, man. It's fascinating. Like I'm always kind of reluctant to share that strategy or talk about it with people, because you got a lot of folks out here, man, they don't want to dot the I's and cross the T's, right? They want to, get some document on Chat GPT or online and go run with it. And
Yeah.
I've heard some horror stories.
Yeah. And see, as far as like with that strategy, selling the contract to another investor, I've never done that because I've used the technique of wholesaling, putting those signs out to get properties at discount for me to rehab myself.
Yep.
So that's how I, so I never passed it along or anything like that. I always just got the property at a discount and rehabbed it myself and rented it out, you know.
So I'm curious, man. Like, so I see those signs, and people do mailings, they email, they cold call, they put up those signs, you know, they drive by, they drive for dollars, right? How effective are those signs for real? I've always been curious to know, like, do those signs really work?
That house that I told you about with the 26, the lady with the 26 houses, she came
Yeah,
from those signs. She came
really.
she came from one of those signs. And actually the following year, I bought the first house. I paid $4,000 for this house. I put 6,000 into it. This was, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something. But the following year, she called me and she had another house for sale. So, and I bought that house too, but I didn't have, she wanted $12,000 for the house. I didn't have $12,000.
Yeah.
Um, but I went to go see the house anyway.
Uh-huh.
And I asked her, what was the situation? Like, what was she gonna do? She said, well, I'm in the same situation I was in last year, and I need $11,000 for or $12,000 for this house. So I could pay the taxes. So I was like, you know what? So you need 11,000 or $12,000 for the taxes. So if I was to give you this $12,000, you're going to use all $12,000 of it to pay your taxes. And she said, yeah. So I said, okay. So if I was to pay you $12,000 or pay $12,000 worth for your taxes, would you exchange? Would you give me the house? She said, yeah. I pulled out like 5 of my credit cards, went to Wayne County Treasurer website, charged all of the $12,000 worth for taxes. And then I like the following month, I went to Michigan First and got a loan. And the loan that I got, I used that to pay off my credit cards. So one thing with real estate, you have two parts. You have price and you have terms. And in order for you to have a deal, you have to be able to control one of the two things. With wholesaling, you're controlling the price. The tenant controls the terms. So you'll say, look, I'll give you $10,000 for this house. They say, okay, well, the terms are I want cash right now.
Yep.
Now, when you're controlling the terms, that's called the lease option. So you can give a person any price that they want as long as you can control the terms. So that's the other one that I want to talk about. That's the lease options. And those are the pretty houses. So wholesaling, where you control the price, those are the ugly houses. Lease options is where you control the terms. Those are the pretty houses. So they really don't
So,
need any work.
so I have questions. I always do.
You always got a question.
Yeah, I have questions, man, because I want to know. 'Cause I'm still new. I got a little bit of experience. I had a little bit of success, but I'm still new. So you said something that caught my attention. So you acquired this one residence. You said you put 6K into it.
Right, 6K. Remember, I'm doing the
So,
work myself.
so I was gonna say either that was a lipstick project and it wasn't a lot of work to be done, or you put in the elbow grease.
When I bought this house, and it's crazy, like, cause I know how there are certain places in the city where you can go and buy things at discounts. Like
Yeah.
not Home Depot. Like I don't really buy anything from Home Depot when I'm rehabbing houses. But and then you know you
Oh, you and I are gonna become even better friends
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Now
and
you just shared.
also
Okay.
yeah,
All
and then
right.
you also, I mean, you know, it's like, you know, in the city, you know, you got to know people who know different things or whatever, like, you know, but this
Now I
particular
ain't gonna get
house,
no. I ain't gonna get caught up. Now I ain't gonna have
yeah,
no
no,
one
it
in
ain't,
the
no, it ain't, no,
unmarked
it ain't, no, it
car
ain't like
chasing
that. I'm
you.
just saying, like,
Okay.
you know, like there are places that, you know, sell like furnaces or whatever. Like I've
Yeah.
never had a brand new furnace. I've
Right.
never bought a brand new hot water heater, or
Right.
I've never bought any of those type of things. So, and then paint is inexpensive, you know, so and then I do my own floors and all of that. But when we bought this particular property, this property, it didn't have a furnace in it. The lady had a stove in the basement, and I guess that's how she was heating up the, you know, house or whatever. The
Now.
plumbing, the plumbing
Okay.
all needed to be done, but you know, I know how to do the plumbing, you know,
Yeah.
and the actual PEX plumbing, the whole house was only like $300, you know, and you know, so and then with the you know, everything else, I mean, yeah, it was only like 6 grand. And then later on down the line, probably like a couple years later, I put a new roof on there, but you know, and
Yeah.
the roof did that. So that was about $5,000, you know, back then. But you know, like I said, it's been like 10 years and I've been renting the house out ever since then. There's never been a vacancy in there.
Man, when I listen to individuals like you, I always have a little bit of regret. Look, I value my U of M degree, but I tell you, I tell men all the time, have both. Know how to take a hammer and knocking a nail and get your degree as well. Because I mean, I personally are loath, like I try to avoid touching the 12, $15,000 homes because I know what's going to be required, right? To get on with speed. And man, I'm not about to be up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and learn how to install a toilet. You know what I mean? Like I know how to do it, but you
You
know what
know
I mean?
what?
Some of this other stuff though, man, when it comes to plumbing and laying floor, I'm not, nah, man.
Right.
I
Yeah. You know the funny
that's
thing.
those skilled trades are so invaluable. Oh my goodness, man.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah, people sleep on it.
yeah. And yeah, and it's something that you know, is not taught, you know, or is
Mhm.
not pushed or whatever in the schools. Like you know, you know, I'm a member of the IBEW, Electricians Union. I didn't know anything about any trades until I was in my 30s, you know, and it was because like once I got out of school, couldn't find a job, all of that stuff. And one of my buddies, he was like, "Man, have you ever looked into the trades?" And I'm like, "The trades, like what's that?" He's like, "You know, like plumbing, electrician." I'm like, "How do you do that?" So, you know, end up getting into the skilled trades and um, you know, just use that um parable of the talents. You know,
Yep.
use all of the talents that I was given to pretty much like create the lifestyle that, you know, I wanted, you know. And that's all it was, you know. And I mean, yeah, it's been working out pretty well. You know, I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
thankful, definitely thankful for it. And
yeah,
everybody
it's
like learn like, you know, how to use their hands a little bit. You can save a lot of money that way too.
man, look, I think about this all the time. Like statistically, if you're living in a neighborhood, I mean, whether it's an A class neighborhood or a C class or a D class neighborhood, if there's a multimillionaire living next to you, there's a high chance that person earned their millions in skilled trade. And that's called a clue.
Yeah.
That is called a clue. It's amazing to me that we don't talk about it as often as we should in the community. Because, look, I mean, only what? Last time I looked at, only 13% of African Americans even end up going to college, and that's not the number of individuals who graduate. Like those are the ones who attend. That don't mean they matriculate through there and get the degree. Um, and here you have, I mean, you spend what, 4 years in college, 5 years now, depending on your circumstances. You're coming out 20, 50. I have friends that come out 70, 100K in debt. You know what I mean? And skilled trades, about how long does it take to matriculate through the
I,
skilled trades program?
the electrician program is 5 years and
Yep.
you can easily earn 6 figures
Yeah,
and you know, being an electrician. And just remember, you get out of high school 18. By the time you're 23, you're earning like, you know, 80, $90,000 a year
easy, easy.
with no college debt. No college debt. You're earning, you know, so you know, and I
But
look
all the
at it.
trades don't require 5 years. That's just the one that does.
Well, plumbers also are 5 years. Majority of them are like 5 years. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Majority of them are 5 years that I'm thinking of like right off the top of my head. Yeah.
So the process
But you
is
get paid while you're going.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One one
Unlike in,
one week, one day out of one day every other week you go to school. And the
yeah,
other days you're working and getting paid.
man.
You
Anyway,
get
we about to have another conversation about that. Okay, so what's the other strategy we were talking about? I'm
what
sorry. I just
yeah, right. Well, with the least options.
yeah,
Typically, like when you're looking at well, when people are looking to sell their homes,
yeah.
typically when a person wants to sell their home, they're going to say, okay, let me find a real estate agent, list it with the real estate agent. And the real estate agent, you know, they pretty much control like 90% or whatever it is of like all of the homes that are being sold. But there's a small percentage of homes that aren't sold. And then there's also some people who don't want to pay the real estate commissions and they try to sell their home on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So the chances of a person being selling their house on their own are slimmer than it is by someone trying to sell it with a real estate agent. And sometimes these people don't know how to price their homes or whatever, but or they may need a certain price for their homes and they don't have enough equity in their home to pay the commission of the real estate agent. So these people are prime candidates for what's called lease options because they have to have a certain price. And all you have to do is contact these people and tell them, like, look, I can give you that price that you're looking for, but I'm not going to be able to give it to you like right now. I'll give it to you over the course of, you know, a period of time. So, and typically these things are, you know, they're 2 year terms because you don't want to go any longer than 2 years because then it becomes a seller financing deal. So you only want it to be no longer than
I was just
2 years.
gonna ask you that. What's the difference between what you're talking about versus seller financing?
Right. Yeah. So it's usually just 2 years. And then the other side of that, because there's always like A, B, and C. In both of these strategies, you're the B. A is the seller, B is you, and C is either the investor or what's called a tenant buyer. So now a tenant buyer, you're searching for those people because in order to buy a property, you need three things. You need to have a job, you need to have a down payment, and the third thing is what a lot of these tenant buyers don't have right now is the credit to qualify for a mortgage. So
Oh, I see what wait
yeah,
a minute.
yeah.
Hold on. So hold on, hold on. So I could go out, acquire a lease agreement, because I have the means to do it, and I could turn around and connect the individuals who need a residence to that agreement. Okay, talk to me a little bit more. How does this work?
Okay. Now, this thing that we're talking about, this thing isn't just location specific. Like you can do this right where you are. You can pick up the phone, call people anywhere in the country and set up these type of deals.
Okay.
Now, it's for sale by owners and the people, the tenant buyers, they're the ones that give you the money. So typically how it works is the money that you receive is 3.5% of whatever the price is that you negotiate with the seller, or $5,000, whichever is greater. So if it's a $300,000 house, your fee is $10,500 just for connecting the buyer with the seller. So, and all you have to do is go to Zillow.
But okay, but hold on. So I'm trying to figure out how does the transaction work? So I end up talking to somebody who wants to do a lease agreement. And let's say the house, to keep the math simple, is 100K. Just keep it
Right,
simple.
right,
Um, and maybe the terms is, I'm gonna give you 1,500 a month, and then at the end of the 2 years, I'm gonna give you the balloon payment to pay the thing off. But you're saying no, what you can do instead is connect a buyer who does not have the proper credit profile to that property. Well, how does that
So,
transaction happen?
so the way that it goes, there's two different types of lease options. You
Yeah.
have one that's called the cooperative lease option, and then you also have one that's called the sandwich lease option. So now the cooperative lease options, that's pretty much like wholesaling, like lease options. The sandwich lease option is pretty much like where you stay in the middle. So I think kind of like what you're into is more so of the um sandwich lease option, where you do set up a lease agreement with the seller, and you tell them like, look, anything that goes wrong with the property, long as it's less than $500, I'll take care of any repairs or anything
Yep.
that's needed. And then you find a person, a tenant buyer, and you lease that property to them. And you,
Ah, I got you.
yeah,
So
that's
I
what I'm
have
talking about.
secured the residence. I'm gonna be responsible for whatever repairs. I'm gonna find somebody, and in essence, they're gonna be paying me rent.
They're going to be paying you more than what you're paying the seller. So you're going
Right.
to get a spread there. And then also the price that you negotiated with the seller, the tenant buyer is going to be paying a higher price than what you can negotiate with the seller. So you're going to get paid up front because there's an option fee that the tenant has to pay, and a percentage of that goes to the seller. You're going to step in and tell the seller, like, look, you can go on with the rest of your life. I'm going to take care of this property, and within 5 years, I'm going to have the option to purchase this property from you. So you have 5 years with
Man,
this
okay.
property. But remember, you're only negotiating 2 years with the seller, with the tenant buyers. So the tenant buyers are going to pretty much give you money up front. Then they're going to give you like $200 or $300 a month more than what you're paying the seller. And then at the end of the deal, within 2 years, if they get their credit together, now they're going to purchase the property and you're going to get a lump sum on the back end. But if they don't purchase the property, it's 2 years. They either have to give you another upfront fee again, and the price is going to be higher than it was before
So,
because
okay, so here's the
you
thing.
keep going.
Uh,
You can just keep
no,
going
no,
on.
no. Look, this is
And they
interesting. I've
don't
never
ask you
heard of
about
this before.
credit or anything. They don't ask you about credit or anything.
So here's the thing, because credit's not involved. It's an agreement between. So okay, all right. Hold on now. So the family or the individual that wants to move into this house, where you secured it with a lease agreement.
Right.
Now here's the thing: if they're having credit challenges, I could see them. Let's say $1,000, $100,000 home. We're talking about Detroit Metro, right? $100,000 home, Detroit Metro. You can probably, safely without much trouble get $800 from a family.
Oh,
And
easy.
then, but what you really want is closer to 1,200. And you can get that in certain zip codes in Detroit Metro pretty easily, right? For what $100,000 home is here in Detroit. But what I'm hearing from you, and let's say I agreed to pay the owner $1,000. I'm gonna have the person who wants to move in the home pay 1,200 or maybe 1,300, whatever the case may be. But you're also saying they're gonna pay a lump sum. Now that's where it kind of throws me off because you can't be targeting a depressed market doing that because they don't have $5,000, $10,000 up front. We're talking about people who are gainfully employed, doing well for themselves. Maybe they went through a divorce or went through some hard times or something like that, right?
But believe it or not, there are more people out there that have that amount of money than you would think.
They
There are
can
people.
run it up. I know they can.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it. they get refund checks, whatever, at the, you know, what is it, like February, whenever, like, you
Yeah,
know, get all of this stuff. So they had that, people have money. Yeah.
okay.
So, but yeah, yeah, that's why we typically, and typically the properties that we target are underneath the FHA guideline, like the loan maximums. So like in
Yeah,
Detroit, it's like, or like in Michigan, it's like, you know, what is it, like almost like 500,000 now, but really
yeah.
about 250, 300,000 is kind of like the sweet spot that you want to like target.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, and then just a correction. Well, or an addition to what you were saying, like you secure a lease agreement with the person, but there's also another thing called called an option agreement. So you
Yeah.
also have to have the option agreement with the seller, because that gives you
The
the
option to buy the property, to
right,
acquire the
exactly,
property after a certain term.
right, yeah, and you agree to one with for 5 years with the seller, but each person that you pretty much like in essence sublet the property to,
Yeah,
they're only 2 years for those people. So you,
because if I'm
essence,
hearing you correctly, if you go beyond 2 years, it becomes a seller financing agreement.
right,
And technically, if you're in the middle, you can't do a seller financing agreement because you really don't own the property.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So and then you do it for 5 years because that gives you two times. So
Yeah.
if the first tenant buyer doesn't work out, you can get another tenant buyer, and hopefully that person works out. And if that person doesn't work out, then you can, and they can pretty much close or buy the property anytime within that 24-month period. So and then
Interesting.
yeah. Yeah, and there's like so many people, like when you start advertising for these properties, there's so many people that contact you about these properties. It's crazy. You just have to know how to screen them as well. That's another thing that you have to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
So those are
I
two.
knew I was going to learn something new today when I spoke with you. Because every time I chat with you, like, man, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, okay,
Right. Yeah.
that's
Oh.
what's up.
Mm-hmm. And that's a way for people like to get in the least options. Really, all you need is a laptop and a cell phone. And the beautiful
Right.
thing about this, you can do it from anywhere in the world. You could be like right now, I'm outside of Starbucks. I could, easily be making phone calls or whatever to Florida, you know,
Hmm.
California, doing like these things all over the country.
So talk to me like horror stories happen, right? You take on, which is why you got to screen them properly. But they're like, you said earlier, the sweet spot is like 200, $250,000 in terms of the homes, because you're really kind of competing with the FHA market when you go above that, right?
Well, well, the reason you stay within the FHA guidelines is because with FHA you only need 3.5% down.
Oh, yes,
So
that's right.
remember, I said that your commission is 3.5% or 5% or whichever is greater. So when they give you your commission, that's in essence the 3.5% that they needed for the FHA financing.
So when you say the word commission,
Or well,
my co-
no, fee.
okay,
That's your fee, not
yeah,
commission.
yeah, yeah,
Fee,
yeah,
fee,
okay,
not commission. No, you're not an agent. It's fee.
right.
Yeah,
I love it. Okay, and we're gonna talk more about this.
right. Yeah.
We're about to have a couple conversations. I love
All
it.
right. Hey, man, I'll talk about this stuff all day. I love it. Yeah.
Um, so I know you have your hands on a couple pots. Like you just talked about how you now have like a turnkey situation where you help people clean up their personal credit as well. So folks can reach out to you for that,
Right.
right? Um, so I guess the question I have for you is, are you? So I know you're earning by helping people clean their personal credit. I get that. I know you're helping people out in terms of securing financing when they can more or less work with a ladder, somebody that has their affairs together, right? Set up a business a certain type of way. And I know you have some other things going on in terms of helping people secure financing. Are you out here also like consulting people? Are people paying you consulting fees to do this type of work and kind of shepherd them through this?
You know, that, I'm looking to get into that. There has been a couple people that I have, talked to and gave them information and, they just reached in their pocket. Like there was, one guy, I gave him some information about, stock option investing, and he actually like reached in his pocket, pulled out $300 bills and gave it to me. And I'm like, man, that's wild. That's like the first time somebody actually just paid me for just giving them some information. And it kind of like sparked something. And I'm like, man, you know what? I need to really start, consulting with people and like, uh, charging for the information because it's life changing. And I spent a lot of money with mentors, that was teaching me this stuff because the fastest way to wherever you're trying to go is by paying a mentor or something. But most people, they don't, they don't believe that. They like, oh, I can look at it and find it on YouTube myself. But the thing is,
Mm,
yeah, you're going to pay one way or the other. You're going to either
yep.
pay with money or you're going to pay with your time. And most people, they don't understand that time is more valuable than money. So it's like they'll rather spend all their time trying to figure out how to save some money, whereas I'll pay the money just so I save a bunch of time. Point
Yeah.
me right to the goal. I don't want to try to walk around the mountain like a million times trying to figure out where the goal is. Just point me to the goal so I can know that I'm walking right to the goal.
Yeah.
So, that's I want to try to help, point people to where the goal is, so that consultant thing will be something that I really need to probably look into more.
Man, success loves speed.
Yes, success loves speed. That's true.
Yep. Yeah. Good things are left behind by those who wait, but only the things left behind by those who hustle. Yep. All day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, I want to thank you for taking time out to schedule, taking, pulling over at Starbucks.
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's
Oh
commitment,
man.
brother. When I looked up and saw that, I was like, okay.
Yeah, hey man. I couldn't miss this interview. Hey man, you know how long it's been since I've been trying to get on your show, man.
So
Busy guy.
talk to me. How can people get in contact with you?
Well, you get my Instagram, Sadell Murray on Instagram, it has all my links and everything there.
So you just put in Sadell and Murray and
Sadell
you'll
Murray,
pop up. Okay.
it's just basic. Yep. Sadell Murray. Yep. And if you need funding, there's a link there. You want a consultation, there's a link, you can calendar link, you can sign up there. And you can reach out to me and get you a 15-minute free consultation, to help you out, get you advance to the next level.
I love it. I love it. Well, look, I appreciate your time. We definitely got to bring you back.
Okay.
Um, you already know I'm going to be contacting you here shortly. So I have a couple projects that I'm looking at, and like I said before, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I could try to figure it out myself, but no, later for that. I want to hurry up and get to it and make this transaction happen and build that wealth and continue to kind of snowball what I have going on. So I thank you for your time.
Oh yeah.
And I know our audience was definitely benefited from the information you shared.
Oh yeah, man, appreciate you. And yeah, hopefully you got something out of it and you can take it to the next level. I appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, have a fantastic day, man. Enjoy that sunshine that's going on out there.
Yes, sir.
And we'll be connecting again here soon.
Okay, sound good. Okay,
All
all right,
right.
take care.
You too. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording. And there it is. All right. So I